Good afternoon. I'm Under Sheriff Sean Coursey. Sheriff Waters is unavailable today. So in his stead, I'm here to notify the public of an arrest of a JSO correctional officer by our agency. Saturday evening, April 6, 2024, Correctional Officer Jordan Weiss was arrested for one count of official misconduct, and third-degree felony. He was arrested for one count of official misconduct, a third-degree felony, and one count of battery, a first-degree misdemeanor. As a matter of background, Weiss has been employed by JSO Corrections for 1 year and 10 months. His date of hire was June 21st, 2022. As he has been criminally arrested, he is now the subject of an internal investigation by JSO. He has been stripped of his authority as a corrections officer, and he was immediately suspended without pay. While there is due process that must be followed, the agency is moving towards termination of Weiss. Now that Weiss has been criminally arrested, our partners at the State Attorney's Office will appropriately prosecute Weiss for his violations of law. This is an active criminal case, so there is limited information which I can provide. The following is a summation of the facts which support Weiss's arrest. At approximately 11 p.m. on March 13, 2024, Weiss was on duty in the Duval County Jail when he observed an inmate engaged in a sexually inappropriate act in the presence of a civilian employee. Weiss gave this inmate 2 verbal orders to cease this inappropriate behavior. The inmate then hid in another part of the dorm. Weiss searched for the inmate after giving the inmate additional commands to stop hiding. When Weiss finally located the inmate, Weiss pepper sprayed and intentionally struck the inmate multiple times, despite the fact that the inmate was not actively resisting Weiss. Because of the privacy rights afforded victims, JSO will not identify the inmate involved in this incident. However, I will share that the inmate did not. After the incident, he received a medical assessment and was returned to his dorm in short order. The inmate did not file a complaint concerning the use of force. Rather, this matter was discovered by JSO's Professional Oversight Unit. Consistent with JSO policy, Weiss completed a response to resistance report based on this incident, which was reviewed by JSO's Professional Oversight Unit. Members of the Professional Oversight Unit noted discrepancies between Weiss's characterization of this use of force and other evidence. As such, the matter was transferred to JSO's Internal Affairs Unit and then to the Integrity Unit, which is the unit that investigates potential criminal violations by public officials. Detective with JSO Integrity Unit arrested Weiss this past Saturday evening. This is the 3rd arrest of a JSO employee by this agency this year. We're always deeply disappointed when a member of this agency violates the law. However, our collective belief in accountability outweighs any personal allegiance to JSO employees. No one is above the law. If one of our employees violates a criminal statute, this agency will fully investigate that matter. If investigators find that there is probable cause to support that allegation, this agency will arrest that employee, as was done in this case. I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Good morning and welcome to the Bad Apple Report. It's bright and early, 7:30 a.m. And you know what? I'm glad this lady finally has her Tahoe back. And I hope this never happens to you folks or anybody. But we know that it probably will happen to more people. And I hope it's not you. I hope it's not me too. Kansas police seized her truck. It took 8 months to get it back, despite never being charged with a crime. Oh, Dewana Goodridge quickly discovered that Kansas civil asset forfeiture laws were stacked against her when the sheriff's deputies seized her truck. Oh, I wonder why they did that. Dewana Goodridge, a 57-year-old Junction City resident, says she worked 12-hour shifts 6 days a week as a machine operator to save up money for her 2007 Chevy Tahoe. And that's a good-looking Tahoe, you guys. All it took for Kansas law enforcement to take it from her last June was a traffic stop that didn't involve her, and an evidence-free claim that there were marijuana crumbs in the center console of her truck. These sheriffs are just awful people. They really are. Goodridge fought for over 8 months to get her truck back. Prosecutors in Geary County, Kansas agreed earlier this month to return it after Goodridge challenged the seizure with help from the Kansas Justice Institute. Oh my goodness, it takes all of that. You got to go to the Kansas Justice Institute to prove your simple innocence. Get your damn truck back. And the law firm of Joseph Hollander and Kraft. Thanks, law firm. I just didn't think it was fair because I worked really hard to get this vehicle. This poor woman has to even make a statement like that. She says, they knew when they ran the plates that everything came back to me, and I just couldn't understand. I couldn't let them take my truck like that. Goodridge's case is an example of the poor protections for innocent owners in civil forfeiture proceedings, and it comes at the same time that Kansas lawmakers are working on significant reforms to the state's civil asset forfeiture laws because of stories like hers. Under civil asset forfeiture laws, police can seize property suspected of being connected to criminal activities such as drug trafficking, even if the owner is never charged with a crime, and even in cases where there's no physical evidence that a crime occurred. So I wonder why they just thought that she was involved in a crime. Anyways, all right. Now, law enforcement groups say civil asset forfeiture allows them to disrupt organized crime like drug trafficking by targeting its illicit proceedings. However, a wide range of civil liberties groups argue that there are far too few protections for property owners who often bear the burden of the cost of going to court and to prove their innocence. Goodridge's case began in June of last year, and Geary County Sheriff's deputies pulled over her son, who was driving her Tahoe, for several alleged traffic violations to Kansas. Okay. And a motion to suppress that the initial alleged infraction, failing to signal, we're going to take your truck now, you didn't signal, while exiting a roundabout. Oh man, it was not in fact a violation, and that the rest of the ensuing traffic stop and search were illegal. Well, isn't that interesting? So they didn't have probable cause. They still took her vehicle. Okay. After Goodridge's son had been detained, Geary deputies brought in a drug-sniffing dog. According to an affidavit of one of the arrest officers, the dog alerted Goodridge's truck. The dog was alerted to alert the truck, is what I think. The officer, who also claimed that she found shake marijuana crumbs in the center console of the truck, although the affidavit goes to note that no items of evidence were collected upon completion of the search of the vehicle. So it's just a lying deputies yapping, flapping her gums. We know how that turns out. They do it all the time. We just saw it in yesterday's story. Goodridge's son had been driving to meet her, so she was at the scene of the traffic stop. She knew that her son was about to be arrested, but she had no idea she wouldn't be allowed to retrieve her truck. They did the search, Goodridge recalls. The officer walked back to the car, got on the radio, and then said, "My supervisor told me to take the truck, so we're going to take it back." Oh, it's all that money. They want that forfeiture money. It's because they are the real criminals, folks. I think you already know that. In a notice of pending forfeiture filed last August, more than a month after the initial seizure, the Geary County Attorney's Office claimed Goodridge's 2007 Chevy Tahoe represent the proceeds of illegal drug transaction, or was used or intended to be used to facilitate drug transactions. Oh. The affidavit noted that at the time of the arrest, Goodridge's son had a pending court case for marijuana charges and was not charged with any new drug crimes as a result of the traffic stop. Nor was Goodridge. Oh, well, you know what? That kid's got a history of having something to do with the devil's lettuce. Take that truck! Goodridge filed a petition last October citing Kansas statute that is supposed to protect innocent owners from forfeiture when they aren't aware of the alleged criminal activity. Oh, that's another thing. However, the government did not respond, of course. The government, we want your truck, missing a November deadline. It wasn't until February 22, several weeks after Goodridge's lawyers filed motions for a probate validity hearing and to suppress evidence for the traffic stop, that the Geary County prosecutors responded, announcing that they were dismissing the case and returning Goodridge's truck. Oh, prosecutors, it's always those guys. They're like, shovel it over here. Let's wait till it's been about 11 months and we've driven this woman crazy. Make sure she didn't say anything real mean on social media so we can go arrest her, you know what I mean? And then we'll give it to her. We know how you idiots work. Goodrich says that losing her truck for 8 months put a serious strain on her and her family, I imagine. You could imagine too. Who were suddenly lacking their only dependable large vehicle. I'm having to get up early to take my daughter-in-law to work, come back, pick her up, run the kids to all the sports events, pick them up from practitioners and stuff, Goodrich says. It was pure hell. Cases like Goodrich's, where an innocent owner's vehicle is seized for an alleged crime they did not commit, they're not unusual. Of course they're not. Before Albuquerque ended its asset forfeiture, it would force owners, even innocent owners, to pay $850 to recover their cars. In Albuquerque, resident Arlene Harhos' case, The city offered to return her car for $4,000 after her son was arrested for drunk driving. Wow. Dang. That's crazy. In 2016, an elderly couple filed a civil rights lawsuit challenging Arizona's civil forfeiture laws after sheriff's deputies pulled over their son, who was driving their car, seized $31,000 in cash they found inside, and seized the car as well, despite neither the couple nor their son ever being charged with the crime. They just stole the money and stole the car because, hey, the government. Goodrich's 8-month wait is also not unusual. Last year, the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Sixth Court ruled that Detroit's asset forfeiture scheme violated residents' constitutional rights by making them wait months for court hearings to challenge the validity of seizures. One of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit waited 2 years for a hearing. Good grief, you guys. The court system, the cops, they hate us. You know it. The Supreme Court is currently considering whether property owners have a due process rights to a prompt post-seizure hearing. Thanks, Supreme Court. I hope you find properly. In response to 2 lawsuits from 2 Alabama women who were deprived of their cars for months while fighting to prove that they were, like Goodrich, innocent owners. In response to outrageous stories like these, many states have passed civil asset forfeiture reforms to strengthen protections for innocent owners. However, Kansas is not one of them. The Institute for Justice, a libertarian-leaning public interest law firm, gave Kansas a D- grade in its most recent 50-state survey of asset forfeiture laws, citing the state's low bar to forfeit property, poor protections for innocent owners who bear the burden of proving their innocence, and the large profit incentive for law enforcement. The large profit incentive. Hey, when you add money to it, that's their new job. That's their new gig. We know that. They do it in Tennessee. They love it. In 2022, a report by the Americans for Prosperity Foundation found that law enforcement in Kansas raked in $21 million through civil asset forfeiture. That's why they're all just fat, rich, and happy. They see what they like in the evidence room. Oh, I like that ring. I'm going to take that ring. And they do. You guys know what they do. All right. They love it. Cops are such crooks. Ugh. Less than a quarter of the owners were convicted of a crime. Wow. So 75% of everybody lose all their stuff. We don't respect any of you government thugs and the FBI, the CIA that watch these things. Man, this guy's a government hater. You're damn right I am. And so is every thinking American. Okay, the 2 chambers of the Kansas legislature are currently trying to resolve the differences between 2 major asset forfeiture reform bills. The Kansas Reflector noted on February that both bills would remove the crime of drug possession from the list of offenses subject to forfeiture, shorten the window of time for property to be returned to the owner, require a judge to approve a probable cause affidavit before a forfeit case could proceed. Of course, we know how you judges are. You're all linked together, go golfing and go eating dinner. Yeah, of course. Who's your bagman, judge? Anyways, and allows defendants who recovered more than half of their property to recoup attorney's fees and litigation costs. The proposed reforms are welcome news to Goodrich, and they should be welcome news to all Kansans, because while what happened to Goodrich is common, the outcome of her case is not. The AFPF analysis found that 9 out of 10 folks, that's everybody, property owners, never get their property back after it was seized by Kansas law enforcement. 9 out of 10 people never get their property back. You know why? Because the Kansas law enforcement are a bunch of crooks. They're criminals. When you see them driving by, give them the bird, is what I would do. I'd give them this. You stupid crooks. I look at them like they're crooks. DeWanna's case, in some ways, exemplifies how unfair forfeiture is. Really, it really exemplifies how much we should not have any respect for the men and women in uniform. They are disgusting thieves. Disgusting thieves. The legislators and the judges and the DAs, disgusting criminals. And I can't stand them. DeWanna is a nice lady, and her son, they were targeted because they had a good-looking Tahoe. Oh, and maybe for other reasons. Either way, Kansas, they know what to do. Shake them down, Kansas. Everybody just remember this. Kansas cops suck. Psychologist to the Sacramento Sheriff's Office. Dear Sacramento Sheriff's Office, please stop killing my patients. On the same day, the Sacramento chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness held its kickoff lunch to celebrate its upcoming annual fundraiser, Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies shot and killed a man experiencing a mental health crisis. The fatal encounter between Christopher Gilmore, 36, and a Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy occurred in Rio Linda on March 23rd, and we had a show about it the other day. Gilmore had been suicidal and was cutting himself in the bathroom of his place of residence when his sister called 911 to request paramedics and fire personnel to respond to her brother. Instead of emergency responders requested arriving to the scene, 4 county sheriff's deputies arrived instead. We know it happens from yesterday morning's show. Gilmore exited the garage, still holding the small blade he had used to cut himself when he was shot multiple times with less than lethal shotgun rounds. Gilmore began to fall after being shot with rubber bullets. Then they shot him with a real gun after he was falling already, and they killed him, said the victim's sister, Bobby Gilmore. Gilmore was killed despite his known history of mental health issues, despite him holding a weapon less than 2 inches long, despite not hurting anyone but himself, and despite having loved ones who specifically called for non-law enforcement emergency responders. Well, you don't get to pick and choose when you call 911. The cops are coming, and they're coming ready to kill. That's what they do. Why did sheriff's deputies respond instead of the Sacramento County Community Wellness Response Team? A team consisting of a mental clinician and peer support specialist that responds to behavioral health crisis and is operational 24/7, 365. Why did sheriff deputies kill Gilmore despite being equipped with a taser, pepper spray, handcuffs, and 24 hours of crisis intervention training and additional time spent on situational simulation training? They did it so that they could get their coin. They have to have enough bing-bings to get their coin. Sheriff's deputies resorted to using deadly force on a bloodied, naked, anguished man, killing yet another Sacramento County resident who was experiencing a mental health crisis. This tragic and egregious situation is too familiar. Jamie Durano, 54, who was shot and killed by a Sacramento Sheriff's deputy in 2022 after his wife called the sheriff's office asking for help for her husband who was experiencing a mental health crisis. That deputy had been on the scene for only 23 seconds before opening fire on Durano in front of his wife and in the front yard. A person with untreated mental illness is 16 times more likely to be killed by law enforcement than other civilians during an encounter. Reducing encounters between law enforcement and individuals experiencing a mental health crisis remains the single most immediate and practical strategy for reducing fatal police shootings. Cooperation from law enforcement dispatch in all jurisdictions countywide must be ensured for proper utilization of the community wellness response system. Right. 911, sheriff's deputies on the way, ready to bing, bing, bing. It's what they do. Come on. Jeez, there's no other option. It is unacceptable to allow these fatal outcomes to continue. The Sacramento County Board of Supervisors have the power to do much more than performative actions like wearing a green ribbon during Mental Health Awareness Month or attending a kickoff lunch for NAMI Sacramento. I implore them to hold the Sacramento Sheriff's Office accountable for its failure to utilize our county's behavioral health crisis response system. They're never going to utilize that response system. That's just another waste of money. You goofy. Come on, Christopher Gilmore deserved better. His sister deserves better. His loved ones deserve better. The community members in the neighborhood in which he was murdered by law enforcement deserve better. They're not going to get better, folks. All you can do is teach people to not trust law enforcement for your life's sake. Your life depends on the fact that you must never, never, never trust law enforcement. Don't call 911. Anything you can take care of yourself, take care of yourself. And if you can't take care of it yourself, you still don't call law enforcement. That would be insane. Okay, we'll call it a day with that. Thank you so much for being here this morning, folks. You guys are awesome. Awesome, awesome. Another day, another bad apple thrown out in the yard for the birds to pick at. Rawr. Wouldn't that be funny to see all the bad apples laying out in the yard and birds picking at them? I would love it. Anyways, that was kind of mean. Ooh, I don't want to leave you guys with that visual. Okay, it's been a long Bad Apple Report. Have a great, great, great day. You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m.